Hey everyone, Edward here. So I want to talk about a stay-at-home stock called Zoom, ticker symbol ZM. This video conferencing app has been booming since the Rona started, and if anyone bought this stock at the beginning of 2020, they would have gained about a 400% return on investment. This stock has been trickling down a little bit because of the recent news on the vaccine. At the time I'm recording this, the company is trading at about $100 billion market cap at about $350 per share. So yeah, let's dive into this stock and see what the hype is all about. As usual, I'll start off with the first part of my analysis, which is the background and overview of the company. So I'll first go through their mission statement because we have to understand why the company is doing what they're doing. Zoom's mission is to develop a people-centric cloud service that transforms real-time collaboration experience and improves the quality and effectiveness of communications forever. Before I get into what they do, I want to go through an origin story of Zoom. Eric Yuan is the current CEO and founder of Zoom, and he used to work for a company called WebEx. For those that aren't familiar with WebEx, they are a crappy video conferencing app that was bought by Cisco back in 2007 for about $3 billion. Some of you might be actually using this at your current workplace. So after the acquisition, Eric actually became the VP of engineering at Cisco. However, back in 2011, Eric decided to actually leave the company because Cisco's management team wasn't willing to make WebEx better. So Eric really wanted to solve the problem with WebEx because there are a lot of unhappy customers, and I'm actually one of them. I've used WebEx before, and I'ma just say that I'm not a fan of it. Eric stated that he didn't see one happy customer since the 20 years of working at WebEx. And guess what? Now Cisco is trying to play catch up with Zoom. So now I'll touch base on a little bit of what Zoom actually offers. So Zoom is a cloud-based conferencing application that offers both a free version and a subscription. They have several different products, and I'll quickly go through them, so please bear with me. First is Zoom Meetings, and everyone should know this one by now. This is where people can come together and host interactive meetings. Second is Zoom Phone, which is simply a cell phone plan. This is pretty much self-explanatory. Third is Zoom Webinar, which is pretty much like a TED Talk, but instead of actually being there in person, this is all done online. Fourth is Zoom Rooms, and this is pretty much a physical setup that lets companies launch Zoom meetings in their conference rooms. And lastly, we got Zoom United, which is a combination of Zoom Meetings and Zoom Phone. Now, out of all these services, depending which one you pick, the price ranges from about $10 a month to a whopping $6,000 per month, excluding the free version. Now I want to shift my focus onto the CEO and founder Eric Yuan because the greatest asset in the company is the leadership. He was an immigrant that was actually inspired by Bill Gates' talk about the internet, and he made it his dream to go to Silicon Valley and work for a tech company. He was rejected 8 times for visa, but on his 9th try he actually got it, and this took about 2 years to do. When he came to the United States, he barely knew any English, but he had the coding skills to land him his first job at WebEx. He is a CEO that is driven by hard work, and he will hustle his way to get what he wants. He has the vision to make Zoom the leader of communication. All in all, he's a really great CEO and one that won't give up really easily. So now I want to talk about how Zoom operates and what I really like about this company. This is a company that's trying to disrupt the way we communicate with each other. So what Zoom is trying to accomplish is to make a single platform for communication. If you need to attend a class or a lecture, then you'll use Zoom. If you want to call someone overseas, then you'll also use Zoom. If you want to do a checkup with the doctor but you don't want to go into the office, then you'll also use Zoom. If you need to do a one-on-one with your manager, then you'll also use Zoom. And yeah, I think you get the point by now. Zoom wants to open up communication no matter where you are at any times. One thing that makes them really unique is the ease of use, and this is pretty much the secret sauce of their success. Joining a meeting room is just one click of a button, very simple and fast. Unlike WebEx, you gotta dial in and then punch in some numbers and then punch in even more numbers in order to get into the meeting. So in terms of user experience, Zoom is killing it. Zoom is vertically integrated, and what I really love about this business is that they're purely software based. This means that they require less capital to operate, so they'll rake in more in EBITDA and net income. Furthermore, they actually recently announced a couple milestones. They reached 300 trillion annualized meeting minutes. Second, they're seeing about 300 million daily meeting participants. And lastly, their service is used by more than 125,000 schools around the world. Keep this in mind, this is still growing at the moment. And also with the subscription model, there's consistent revenue coming into the company. Throughout 2020, Zoom has gotten a lot of free brand awareness and marketing. This opened up many international market opportunities for them that would have taken them a lot of capital to achieve. So I personally never heard of Zoom until I saw headlines about this during the Rona, but apparently they were more well known in the enterprise space. Furthermore, Zoom has first first mover's advantage in terms of an easy-to-use video conferencing application. The company has a 4-year head start against Microsoft and Google. They're really trying to make their product a lot better by making meetings less stressful and more engaging. During Zoomtopia 2020, they announced even more features such as contactless collaboration, enhanced whiteboard, high-fidelity audio, video waiting rooms, and many more. So the next thing I really love is Zoom Cares and Sustainability, which is a program that donates their profits to certain causes. One recent example is that they donated about $1.5 million to help students get connected and access to the internet around the world. Millions of families around the world have been affected by the Rona and are struggling to keep the lights on. Over 6 million children in the United States don't have access to the internet. I love that this company is making a positive impact on the world and extending their value for a sustainable future. Lastly, with the Rona going on, many companies have shifted to a permanent work from home environment. Square and Twitter are two great examples. Recently, the CFO was on Yahoo Finance and she mentioned that they're really focusing on how the work environment will look like in the future, and they believe that companies will slowly transition to a work from home structure, which in my opinion, I can actually see that happening. This will save companies a lot of money in the long term because renting office space is not cheap. Fun fact, employees are actually 13% more productive when they work from home than going into the office. So now I'll get into the disadvantages that Zoom is facing. So the first is competition. The big tech giants such as Google and Microsoft are competing heavily in this space because business productivity is a part of their revenue. Microsoft got Microsoft Teams and Google got Google Meet. If these companies are diving into this space, then it validates everything that Zoom is doing. Google Meet, in my opinion, is the simplest one to use, however there's less interactive features. Microsoft Teams is probably one of the biggest threat in my opinion because a lot of companies are already in Microsoft ecosystem with Windows, Microsoft Azure, and Microsoft 365. So it'll be a no-brainer for companies to fork out less money for services that are already there. So the second point I want to make is that the free version of Zoom Meetings has a time limit of about 40 minutes. However, compared to their competitor Google Meet, which is at about 60 minutes. Third, people can argue that their performance can trickle down once everything goes back to normal. I do agree with this because the Rona really kicked it off for this company. I can definitely see people rotating their money out of this position and allocating that somewhere else. Lastly is the privacy and security risk. Zoom bombing was a big thing in 2020, and this is where strangers would enter random meetings and do things that you probably don't want to see. This happened because of a lack of password required to join a Zoom meeting. In addition to this whole fiasco, Zoom's video calls aren't end-to-end encrypted, and what's worse is that they claimed it to be. However, Zoom is aware of all this issue and they're already working on it. In October, they announced that they'll be adding an end-to-end encryption feature into their software, so that's good news. Now I want to get into the valuation and financials of this company. If we look at their revenue, we can see 80% top line growth in 2018 and 2019, but for their entire year of 2020, my estimates are that they're projected to grow about 300% plus on their revenue. We can see beautiful estimated gross profit and EBITDA margins because they're a software as a service company, which means they require less OPEX and CAPEX. If we look into the cash conversion ratio, all of their EBITDA is converted into cash. I really like to look into this ratio because when we buy a stock, we want to see how much cash they can generate for us in the future. Now onto the valuation metrics, we can see that they're very high. They have a forward EBITDA of 140 and a forward gross profit of 56. This is pretty much expected because this is a stay-at-home stock that was driven by the Rona. They're pulling in massive numbers and investors are expecting a huge upside. Now for their financials, they have a cash position of about $1.8 billion and a total debt of $70 million. They have a current ratio of 4.69, which is fantastic. They have way more assets than liabilities in the next 12 months. They reported consistent free cash flow quarter after quarter. So this company hits all my financial requirements. They have more cash than debt. They have a current ratio of more than 1. They have consistent free cash flow. The top line is growing year over year and they're profitable. Now we'll get into the last part of the video, which is my thoughts on the stock. This company is firing at all cylinders in terms of their numbers, which makes this stock very attractive. I love that this company is operated by a founder and CEO, and this is actually a really hard rule for me when I invest into a company. He has the roadmap and the vision to make this company successful. However, people can argue that this stock is only doing well because of the Rona, and I do agree with that. This stock could dip in the short term once we go back to our normal lives. We're already seeing the stock price trickling down because of the recent news on the vaccine, but in the long term, in my opinion, Zoom will need to retain their customer, expand to more countries, countries and add more rich features. Unfortunately, I don't have the crystal ball to determine whether the stock will like go to the moon, and if I did, I would be rich by now. In the end, the stock is trading at a very rich valuation for my liking. However, I can see the perspective of the upside potential for this company. But yeah, that wraps up for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.